financial futures.
Take your financial future by saving for retirement.
A message from AARP and Med Council.
Back to the Ticket Water Cooler, brought to you by Wingstop on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Happy Thanksgiving Eve to everybody out there. Thanksgiving's nice enough, but what I like about the Thanksgiving holiday more than anything is Nebraska and Iowa facing off. Now, unfortunately, it hasn't gone well for Nebraska, as we all know, for several years here. But we got some hope here. And Iowa's got a lot more to play for this season, but Nebraska obviously can, if they can get an upset, you'll feel really good about going into the offseason, at least for something. And it really, with the change in coaching staff and all that, it might not mean too much, but I think for the Husker fan base, more than anything, they just need a good moment here and there, and those have been hard to come by. So beating Iowa would certainly do that. To preview the Iowa Hawkeyes, we've reached out to an old friend, David Eicholt, the Iowa Hawkeye insider for 24/7 Sports and CBS Sports. David, thanks for joining the airwaves once again here on 93.7 The Ticket.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving. I appreciate you reaching out to me. It's good to connect up with you guys again.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe we can make a yearly tradition out of this, as long as Nebraska and Iowa are in the same pod, I guess, moving forward once this college football thing settles down, if it ever does. But let's talk first about this game here. What is just the kind of general feel for Iowa as they have Nebraska in their way here? Or is this do they kind of feel this is more about Iowa and getting done what they need to do? Or is there a focus on Nebraska this week, kind of your feeling from the press conferences?
Yeah, I think there's just a focus on Nebraska. I mean, I think one of the big things that Kirk Ferentz and his team emphasized to us yesterday, and we talked to them, is Kirk put up the scores from the previous 4 seasons and said, look, it's been one-possession games. Despite the record differences, you got to throw them out. And he said he hasn't really brought up the clinching the Big Ten West. It's all about taking care of Nebraska. And especially, I think it's a little bit hard to scout Nebraska. It's what Jack Campbell told us, because they really don't have an identity right now, but they can do some different things. And as you mentioned, I think a win for Nebraska would do them wonders heading into the offseason. So I was expecting them to throw the kitchen sink at them on both sides of the ball. It wouldn't surprise me if that's the case. But as I mentioned, when these two teams meet, I think you have to throw out the records. It's going to be all about the product on the field. And look, I still think Nebraska's got some playmakers on both sides of the ball. And I've watched Iowa all season long, and it's still hard for me to grasp what kind of team this Iowa team is, because they just find some ways to win the most ridiculous games that they have no business in.
So Iowa is going to be missing some key faces in this game. Can you tell us who those people are and who might be taking their spots?
Yeah, I think the big story of yesterday was Sam Laporta, who could be the Big Ten's tight end of the year, is out. He got a lower leg injury against Minnesota. I believe it was in the late first quarter, and he already had 95 yards in that game. He was really that jumpstart for that Iowa offense that scored 10 first quarter points. But I think a guy that people will need to look out for, and I think he's going to be a breakout player in the Big Ten next year, is tight end Luke Lachey, the son of former Ohio State great Jim Lachey. Luke stepped up over the course of the season, had 77 yards last week, including a 33-yarder that ultimately set up the game-winning 21-yard field goal. So I would take a look at him, and I do expect Iowa to run a lot less fullback, because Monty Potabom is going to be out as well, and he's been a big part in Iowa trying to get an identity running the football. But I think the bright spot for Iowa fans is Caleb Johnson, who's been spectacular as a true freshman for Iowa. He's going to be available at running back. I expect him to get a big bulk of the carries, but I expect Iowa to utilize a lot of motion and just to try to get this Nebraska defense off balance, because I think Nebraska's defense has actually played better over the past couple of weeks compared to where they were at the beginning of the season. So I would take a look there. And on the defensive side of the ball, I think Iowa, for the most part, is pretty healthy compared to who they've played most of the season. Kayvon Merriweather's at full strength. Terry Roberts, star cornerback, is still out, so Cooper DeJean's taking over there. And outside linebacker Justin Jacobs has been injured most of the year with, I believe, is a shoulder injury. So for it being November football, Iowa's relatively healthy going into this one.
They do got quite a cast of characters on the defensive side of the ball. If you're looking at playmakers there, I mean, Jack Campbell's obviously kind of the leader of that group. I've been really impressed by Cooper DeJean. I mean, obviously Riley Massa returning All-American. How does this Iowa defense kind of stack up to some of the past, really, I mean, you could say great defenses under Kirk Ferentz's?
I think this has a case to be the best play he's ever had. I mean, I think last week against Minnesota, it took a big hit. I mean, Iowa allowed Minnesota to go for 319 yards. Mohamed Ibrahim, who I can't believe has had the season he's had coming off that Achilles injury, he had Iowa for 263 yards on the ground, and that's not something you typically see. I mean, Iowa held Ohio State to 63 rushing yards. Blake Corum from Michigan had a little bit of success, but every other team really has not ran the ball well against Iowa. So I think it's a top 2 or top 3 defense in the Kirk Ferentz era. I just think you look at all 3 levels, they got big playmakers. Lucas Van Ness will have a legitimate decision to make at the end of the year. He's getting first-round buzz. If he returns, he might be one of the best defensive ends in the nation. As you mentioned, Jack Campbell, who's now a finalist for the Butkus Award, created a pair of turnovers against Minnesota, which ultimately sealed the deal there. And Cooper DeJean, you could basically play him at 5 or 6 different spots in this defense, and he's had no problem adjusting there. So I think in terms of just consistency and all-around playmakers, this Iowa defense might be the deepest that Kirk's had, at least in his tenure.
And of course, the struggle for Iowa has kind of been well known throughout the year. They've got it going, as you mentioned, at the running back position, and just overall. I mean, Spencer Petras had his season high for throwing the other day. I was kind of reading a tweet there, though. I thought it's interesting. Do you think that he's going to be well received for his senior day? Do you think that is Iowa Nation kind of being easy on him, or they really kind of give him the business here?
Yeah, I think that's going to be an intriguing question. I do think that after the first 3 weeks went by, people, the media, fans, everyone else realized, this probably isn't all Spencer Petras' fault. I mean, if you look at Iowa's offensive line, they're starting 4 sophomores and a freshman. Iowa basically flopped on 2 recruiting classes in the offensive line. I mean, none of them are on the 2 deep, essentially. So I think there's issues there. Iowa had 2 scholarship wide receivers available for the first 2 games of the year, a brand new running back room, a first-year tight end coach. So I think Petras took the brunt of the blame. But you also got to think about this. Spencer Petras could be, I believe, the first Big Ten quarterback to have 2 Big Ten title appearances, which is insane to think about. When you think about his last 24 games, I think he's thrown for, 8, maybe 10 touchdowns, and Iowa's still somehow winning football games in inconceivable ways. So I think he's going to be well received. I think he's played his best football over the past 4 weeks. Nothing eye-popping statistically, but he's throwing the football better. He's not turning it over. And again, I think Iowa fans and everybody else started to realize, this might be more Brian Ferentz and Kirk Ferentz in the offensive line than Spencer Petras.
Oh, that's good to hear, because hopefully he gets a good reception on senior day. Is there pressure somewhat on Ferentz to hit the portal? I knew that was kind of a big deal going into this year, that he kind of stayed away from modern football, but it's gonna adjust one way or the other. I mean, especially at that quarterback spot with Spencer Petras moving on, is there kind of talks around moving toward embracing that stuff? Or are they gonna just kind of stick the Iowa way? Because once again this year it is working.
Yeah, it's working to a degree, but Iowa over the past 2 years is a case study. There will never be a college football team that wins as many games with the differential in stats between offensive, special teams, and defense. It's just not possible. It's not going to happen, right? So I have heard murmurs that there are going to be a couple top targets at quarterback when they enter the portal. If they enter the portal, I think Iowa's going to keep a close eye on it. And the reality is, it's not sustainable. Iowa's going to have to get a quarterback. I think they need to get 2 wide receivers, and I think there needs to be substantial coaching changes and turnover, whether it be Brian Ferentz maybe stepping down or going to the NFL, which there is some legitimate behind-the-scenes buzz about doing, and maybe Iowa making a couple positional coaching changes. But if you have 2 scholarship wide receivers available, there's clearly something wrong in terms of just the roster management. Yes, Iowa was hit with bad health luck all off season long. Notably, Keegan Johnson's been out except for 15 snaps this season. I know there's going to be a lot of close eyes on what he's going to do in this off season and what Iowa's going to do. But I do think that Iowa is not going to fully embrace the transfer portal. They don't want to build their entire team around it. But as you mentioned, an NIL with the transfer portal, it's really inexcusable if after the season they've had, they don't want to hit the transfer portal. Even if they don't want to, it's almost coaching up practice not to.
David Eichel, Hawkeye insider for 24/7 Sports, joining us here on the Ticket Water Cooler, 93.7 The Ticket. Who is, I guess, the madman behind this madness that is continual special teams and defensive touchdowns that are, it's not like maybe they'll get it. Like, they need it week in and week out. Is that more, from the top down with Kirk Ferentz, or is that Phil Parker?
I think it's a couple people. One, Kirk Ferentz always preaches complementary football. That's what Iowa thrives off of. Iowa knows they're never going to be elite offensively. I mean, the reality is Iowa's had a couple of years way back in the early 2000s when they were top 10, top 15 offense. But if you look at over the course of the past 15 years, there's been 3 different coordinators. And with respect to the program, what Iowa's done, it's all garbage, but it's a different Santa Febreze that they put on the garbage. I mean, it's the same exact scheme. It's the same exact project. Iowa has had some playmakers. But as far as the credit goes, it starts with Kirk Ferentz. Phil Parker, I think, deserves a Broyles Award this year for nation's top coordinator. Again, when you look at Iowa being 130th in total offensive yardage, and they're probably going to win their division if they can find a way to beat Nebraska, I think he deserves a lot of credit. But also LeVar Woods on special teams. I mean, the way he schemes up these punt blocks, Iowa's had 3 this year. Kickoff returning, punt returning. He just sees special teams completely different. He's coached in a couple different positions at Iowa before he got elevated to special teams coordinator. Everything he's coached has turned to gold. And I've said this on the record too. I think whenever Kirk Ferentz calls it a career, I think the number one person that should take over for him is going to be LeVar Woods.
Oh, that's fascinating. Is there? I did see some rumors about that too earlier in the season. Is there writing on the wall for Kirk to maybe consider retiring at any point, or is that just because of the Brian Ferentz stuff that was kind of going on?
I think the Brian Ferentz stuff had more to do with it, but I'll go back to COVID in 2020. For me, I thought he was near the end of his career then. I think a lot of my colleagues did as well. But I think once COVID hit, he got a taste of what retirement is. He wasn't really ready to settle down into bird watching and trying a new creme brulee recipe in his kitchen, right? He was not ready to do that yet. He was probably bored. Yeah. And he just said, look, I'm passionate about coaching. He said, I'm in the best shape I've been in. I feel better than I did 10 years ago. Iowa obviously gave him a huge contract at the end of the last offseason. He's recruiting better than he ever has been before. And Iowa's winning games. And while it's a big deal as far as the ever-changing landscape of college football, NIL, transfer portal, and everything else, I think Kirk knows he has a chance to continue to solidify his legacy. Now, if he wins a Big Ten title, if he somehow finds a way to get it done this year, again, this is not something I'm hearing behind the scenes. I'd be very, very intrigued about his kind of mentality toward that would be.
Yeah, that's fascinating stuff. Dave, before we let you go, we would want to get your opinions on the Husker here and the Husker coaching search. You are a graduate of Nebraska. You say you've been watching all the games. What do you think Nebraska needs to do, maybe somewhat philosophy-wise, or if you have a coach in mind, what do you think Nebraska's next step should be here going into the next phase of the Big Ten?
I think a couple things. I don't really have any specific name that I would look for them to hire, but I think what they need to do is they need to have somebody that emphasizes offensive and defensive line play. That's just the reality of Big Ten football. You need great work in the trenches. You need a solid defense. And I think you need to be able to embrace NIL, embrace the transfer portal, and really utilize NIL to the advantage. With the brand that Nebraska has in college football still to this day, much maybe some outsiders, especially Iowa, people don't want to admit, Nebraska still has a national brand. They have a huge alma mater. They have a passionate alumni who are going to chip in for NIL. I think if they can emphasize recruiting, NIL, defense, and line play, I think that they can take the next step into getting back to where Nebraska wants to get back, which at this point, I think is a consistent bowl appearance team that can contend for Big Ten titles. I think if you can do that, you certainly go a long way, because I don't think it'll take much to get Nebraska back once they take the baby steps going forward.
He's David Eichel of Hawkeye Insider for 24/7 Sport. David, thanks for joining us, and once again, have a great Thanksgiving, and hopefully we'll talk to you again this time next year.
Hey, I appreciate you, man. Happy Thanksgiving. Take care.
All right, there he goes, David Eichel. Always fun. I know you guys don't like the Hawkeyes, but we should at least know the enemy as we kind of go into the game.
We'll talk about him a little bit.
Talk about him a little bit.
And then we talk about him in a negative light.
It's just fascinating. I still am fascinated, and I agree with him. I mean, Phil Parker, what he's been able to do, and then that special teams, coach he was talking about. for them to have the season that they've had, where they again rely. It's not like maybe we'll get some points or hopefully get some points today. They rely on points from defense and special teams, and they get it every week.
Iowa is the weirdest team. Like he said, the statistical anomaly that is Iowa this season will never happen again. I don't care who you think you are. This will never happen again. The way that they're able to win games with defensive and special teams touchdowns and like a field goal. The fact that there was probably a stretch where they had a safety in like a couple straight games. Like,
remember
that's
they had
just
two
wild.
safeties earlier.
Like they won their first or second game. They won without scoring a touchdown. Like,
I
how?
think they had two safeties.
It's wild. I don't understand it.
That's why I like watching Iowa football.
It's disgusting.
It's just incredible to watch. How they're going to score. How they get. It seems like a close game. But Kirk Ferentz
Your
just
definition
always
of incredible is weird.
Oh, it is incredible. It's a lot of fun to watch for me. But anyway, I'll get to watch two of my favorite things: Iowa Hawkeyes football playing style, not Iowa Hawkeyes in general. Iowa Hawkeyes football playing style and Nebraska go at it here on Black Friday. So we'll be looking forward to that. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, Matt Rule actually had an appearance on a football show this morning. Let's hear what he had to say because. Well, let's just talk a little bit about the coaching search. There's also some other guys getting raises. Where's this all land for Nebraska?
You're welcome.
We'll talk about that next year on the Ticket Water Cooler on 93.7 The Ticket.
Light-changing research doesn't just take place in outer space. It's also happening right now, and you can select world's leading clinical research organizations, healthy adults who are 19 years old and older for research opportunity. If you qualify, you can earn up to $500 a day for time and travel. Overnight stays may be required. To learn more, call Solarion at 866-213-2965 or visit helpresearch.com/500.
It's here, the day you've all been waiting for. Brown Shoe Fit's big Black Friday sale. We're offering 20% off store-wide, including 20% off the sale rack. We got Hey Dudes for 25% off, and Smartwell socks are still buy 3, get 1 free. So come on down to Brown Shoe Fit for our big Black Friday sale all weekend long. Some exclusions may apply. See store for details. Brown Shoe Fit Company on the corner of 66th and Q. You're in Lincoln.
Nebraska fans, Brokers Insurance Agency in Lincoln is a proud donor of Nebraska Athletics. Brokers Insurance Agency is located at 33rd and A Streets in the heart of Lincoln. At Brokers, they can help you with all your insurance needs. Let them worry about your insurance so you have more time to enjoy the college football season. Call one of their licensed agents today at 402-420-5353 or visit their website at brokersinsurancene.com. Go Big Red.
Mike Schaefer here for Trek CBD. It's football season, and that means you're tailgating with friends, or if you're like me, yelling at the TV during Vikings games. Trek CBD has a variety of products that help calm me down during the games, so don't scare my dog. But in the rare cases that I yell too much, there's CBD products for him, too, and all other pets. Whether you're looking for drinkable Delta 8 seltzers, hemp-derived Delta 9 syrups for your beverages, or anything else, Trek CBD has it all at 84th and Anderson. Trek CBD done right.
Wow. Did you ever save me money on my car?
Yes, that's why our customers keep coming back.
How do you do it, friendly car dealer ?
We simply have low overhead and high trade-in values. The next line's yours.
Oh.
Ready for something better? Mullen Motors is a no-hassle, no-pressure dealership with financing available. Check out the inventory at MikeMullenMotors.com.
No taglines, just quality vehicles. Mullen Motors.
They say one great thing leads to another. And that's especially true when you visit a Great Clips salon. When you sit down for a haircut with the skilled and friendly stylist at one of our thousands of convenient Great Clips locations, they'll not only make your hair look great, they'll make you feel great too. And that's something you can't help but share with the world. Download our online check-in app today and opt in to get a ready next text when you're up next. Great Clips. It's going to be great.
The Heartland Diamond from Sartor Heyman Jewelers was born from an unrelenting desire for more sparkle. Designed to shine as bright as your love, the difference between the Heartland and the traditional cut is clearly visible with the naked eye. By adding 32 additional facets, our skilled craftsmen have created a masterpiece, a diamond that truly reflects your passion and desire. Stop in and see the brilliance of the Heartland Diamond for yourself, exclusively at Sartor Heyman Jewelers, a Nebraska tradition since 1905.
Working at Continental in Lincoln isn't a job, it's a career. And right now they've raised wages again and they're hiring for production operators at $24.11 per hour, which grows to $28.27 per hour within 3 years. Skilled trade positions now start at $32.76 per hour with opportunities to make more based on certifications. Continental also has salary jobs available and great benefits, plus medical and prescription costs at very low premiums. Dental, vision, and life insurance are offered at no premium cost to the associates, with increased bonuses and vacation for new hires. To learn more or to apply, go to continental-jobs.com with keyword Lincoln. Come work at Continental today.
College football in Lincoln, America. The time has come. Start your game day off right with the A1 Automotive Ticket Tailgate pregame show. Join the ticket crew live from Tipsy Tina's in the Haymarket as they bring you all the coverage you need to get you ready for the action. It's the A1 Automotive Ticket Tailgate pregame show on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Brought to you by A1 Automotive, Mullen Motors, Wall to Wall Wine and Spirits, Bauer Underground, Ben Bleicher with Professional Realty Group, and Ritchie Brothers.
Imagine your next staff meeting. Now imagine your next staff meeting with a side of ribs. Your next client presentation, or that same client presentation with brisket and baked beans. It's better, right? Let Mary Ellen's Food for the Soul take care of all of your business catering needs. Feed the staff, cater your next event, whatever you need, Mary Ellen's can help. They can even host your events in their brand new event space located right next to the restaurant. Go see for yourself. Mary Ellen's Food for the Soul at 29th and Pine Lake or online at maryellens.com. Let them fix you a plate.
I grew up hearing that women are bad with money, but like many of you, I spent years paying bills, managing checking accounts, and taking care of my family. So turns out women are pretty good with money after all. And now I'm taking control of my financial future by saving for retirement. It's never too late to start, and there's a great website to help you. Check out WeSaySave.org and jumpstart your retirement savings on your budget and your WeSay.org. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Back to the Ticket Water Cooler. Brought to you by Wingstop on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
We're back here on the Ticket Water Cooler, wrapping things up and making way for a happy hour coming up next. But first, let's do a little speculative sort of talk as we get ready for Nebraska's head coaching decision. Maybe it'll come this weekend. I think the odds are that it might. I think now it's kind of interesting because if you would name 4 coaches, Rico, that you believe are still in the running at Nebraska, who do you think that those 4 coaches would be?
Mickey Joseph.
Putting you on the spot. Yeah, I think Mickey's in there.
Chris Kleiman hasn't gotten a raise yet.
That's right.
Just really, it's anybody that hasn't gotten a raise.
Hasn't signed it?
Hasn't gotten a raise yet. I don't know. Lane Kiffin?
You put Lane Kiffin in there?
Yeah, sure. Why not? People forget he was born in Lincoln.
That's right.
That's it. That's his only connection.
He
was born in Lincoln.
Everything. His dad coached for Nebraska for quite some time.
Luke Fickle?
That's why I was here. I think Luke Fickle would be in there, yeah.
So it's at 4?
Yeah, that's 4.
Yeah. Looks like I got Mickey at the top.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that those are some pretty good names. Of course, there's been some Bronco Mendenhall talk this week. So, I mean, there's more stuff to kind of break through, but a few names probably cross off the list at this point. Mark Stoops, as we know from a couple days ago, signed an extension with Kentucky. And then yesterday we've got 2 more. Lance Leipold of Kansas signed his extension, and Kalen DeBoer of Washington signed his. That might have been unrelated, but he was always kind of the outside.
People were like, Kalen DeBoer. I don't know. That was always like if you talked about the coaching search for long enough, his name would be brought up.
Right.
Lance Leipold, I don't mean anything, like, I don't want to sound rude, and this isn't against Lance or anything, but his extension means nothing to me about Nebraska. To me, that just means he's not going to Wisconsin. I always thought if he was leaving Kansas, he was not going to Nebraska. He was going to Wisconsin.
You know, when I went to that Kansas,
so that just means that Jim Leonard is going to the next head coach of Wisconsin.
Well, yeah, that could certainly be the case. You know, when I went to that Kansas Duke game, I was wearing Duke gear, but so people would talk trash to me after the game.
But you were like,
I just kept telling him, dude, Nebraska's going to hire your coach. This is a 1-year thing. So the fact that he gets an extension, I guess those guys were right when they were making fun of me. We didn't get to actually Iowa's famous alumni. Maybe we should,
because they don't have any.
Oh, they've actually got quite a few. So I can get to it real quickly here, and you can kind of give me your thoughts on these. Gene Wilder, big Gene Wilder guy?
He did not.
He did. Sorry.
Guess I don't like Gene Wilder anymore.
You still like Gene Wilder. Ashton Kutcher.
I think I knew that one.
Did you like?
I think I knew that one. Yeah.
Tom Brokaw.
I know that name.
Yeah.
Why do I know Tom? Yeah. Why do I know Tom Brokaw? What do I know Tom Brokaw from?
I don't know which show it was exactly, but he's just a kind of an older journalist.
Okay. Whatever.
Yeah. How about an American actor here, Brandon James Routh? You might not know who that is exactly, but he portrayed Superman in the film Superman Returns. So they have Superman on their side.
Oh, perfect.
But there's been plenty.
Isn't he? No, he's from a farm in Kansas.
Superman,
right?
Is he?
He's originally from. I have to look it up now. Now it's gonna bother me.
I didn't know Superman had a state that was his home.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Well, yeah. So they've got a Superman on their side. Bob Stoops actually was a 4-year starter for Iowa, a all Big Ten selection. He was actually named the team MVP in 1982.
Smallville, Kansas.
Oh, Smallville. That's right.
Yeah.
That's where the show came from.
I was like Kansas, right? So close.
Tom Arnold. You know Tom Arnold?
Yes.
Why?
Do I know Tom Arnold?
You'd recognize Tom Arnold if you looked him up. He's he's just a role guy in a bunch of movies that weren't very good. That's pretty much Tom Arnold in my mind. Or more, I think did he have a role in Roseanne? I know he married Roseanne.
Couldn't tell you.
Might have had. I'm not really sure.
I'm going to yell at the text line really fast.
Okay.
Unnamed texter, no, not Paul Christ. Kenton Lincoln, no, not Jamie Chadwell. Matt Hop, no. Dear God, no, not Urban Meyer.
Oh, that'd be great if it was Urban.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah,
I'm just telling you, it's not going to happen. And also, stop with the groom Mickey to take over for the long haul because Mickey doesn't need grooming. That's unnecessary. Okay, that's it.
All right, there you go. Don Nelson, Strick's old coach, actually, one of his favorite coaches.
Really?
Yeah. He was. He left Iowa as their all-time leading scorer. He's played basketball there. So that's kind of cool. Brett Bielema.
I knew that.
Yep. Has an Iowa tattoo. So the Big Ten West flows strong in his veins.
Waiting for Ferentz to get fired, so then they hire Bielema.
Yeah, that's what I thought. David went to say that he thought that the special teams, LeVar Woods, the special teams coach, would get the job.
No.
I always kind of thought Brett Bielema, he's got to make his way to Iowa City.
It's gonna be Brett.
So we'll see. Legendary college football coach Eddie Robinson actually went to Iowa.
Huh. Okay.
That's strange. I did not expect that until I looked it up today. And former WWE champion Big E. You know who Big E is?
I should.
Maybe.
Okay.
Do you know a lot of modern wrestlers? I mean, he's
modern. No.
He's modern. Yeah.
Modern, no.
So you might not know who he is.
No.
So that's probably fair. So that's those are some of the people that might be cheering for Iowa this weekend.
Well, I will cheer against all of them.
Fair enough. Yeah, you no longer like Gene Wilder.
Nope. Sorry, Gene.
You shouldn't have made that decision those times.
Shouldn't have done it.
I think he was born in Iowa. Even I'll take.
Oh, well, that's even worse. I can maybe forgive you if you're born in Iowa, but if you go to Iowa, sorry, that was a choice.
Then you're sticking around.
You didn't get to choose where you were born, but you chose to stay and go to Iowa. That was just a terrible mistake on your end.
Do you think Matt Rule's out of the coaching search? Do you get that feeling, or do you think he's back in?
Dude, I don't know. I don't
read the tea leaves there.
I don't know, and I'm just waiting for whoever to get hired.
Yeah.
Whoever gets hired, I'll talk about them. But until then, it's just like you're throwing stuff at a wall and you're hoping something sticks. That's all anybody's doing right now. Trev Alberts has done a great job of keeping everything in-house and not allowing leaks. And no matter how many people say, I've got a source that's saying this, nobody's source is right. Everybody's source has been wrong.
Yeah.
Shut up. Your source is wrong. And and somebody's going to come out of the woodwork and be like, see, I told you my source was right. No, your source was guessing.
And maybe it will be right at some point. But like you said, it's just hard. It's like, hard to pick throughout all the other people with sources. It's like, how are we going to trust you among these other 60 people that said something? Who really knows? But I thought Matt Rule had an interesting appearance on Good Morning Football. So I'll play some of that to you to kind of get in his headspace. It's been reported that he turned down Nebraska, basically. And of course, there's all sorts of reports, but that's one of them. So it's kind of interesting to listen to what his feelings are about getting back into coaching.
I don't know. I really don't. If I go back 3 years ago, I was sitting at my table in Waco, Texas, and I had a pretty good life, and I made the decision to come to the NFL because I wanted to do it. And my son was going into his freshman year of high school. And really, I had two goals. I wanted to, number one, I wanted to win the Super Bowl and bring a championship to Carolina. I feel like they deserve that. But I also wanted my son to graduate high school. I've moved around. He's been to so many different schools. And I just wanted to give him the gift of, hey, you can go to high school in one place. He's been to 12, 13 different schools.
Is that right?
So, yeah. So he'll be a senior next year. And, I was kind of like, all right, this happened. I'll obviously listen to things. I know this. I don't care where I coach. It has to be the right fit. It has to be the right people. It's not really where I've learned it's who. And, but my son said to me, he actually said it to me last night. He said, Dad, you need to coach. Like, I want you to coach. I'm like, but it's your senior year, man. You're on the basketball team. You're on the golf team. He's like, Dad, players, young people, they that's what you do. And so, I watched you do Bravion earlier in the green. Like I coached Bravion in college. Like my daughters know him. Like, cool. So I don't know where I'll coach. I loved the NFL. I loved college football. Most importantly for me, I loved pouring into young people.
So there you hear it. Matt Rule, his son wants him to coach. So, part of the idea with Matt Rule turning down Nebraska was that he was going to take a year off. Well, his son doesn't want him to take a year off.
His son's like, no, I don't know. Don't worry about me. Don't be a family man. How dare you?
It's like, Dad, I already went to 13 different schools. You can't just turn it off on
can't just
senior
stop
year.
now. Downtown Scott, why am I so sure about Kiffin and Urban? I'm not. I'm doing what everybody is doing and guessing.
There you go.
I have no sources telling me that it's not Urban. I have no sources telling me that it's not Kiffin. The only reason that I'm sure that it's not Urban is because of what Trev Albert said after he fired Frost and what he's looking for in a head coach. And that does not fit Urban Meyer. So yeah, that's it. Again, everybody's guessing right now. There's a couple people who know, and they're not saying anything.
Well, and it does feel like those would be in the home run higher category. And I'll just say this, it feels less and less like they're going to get the home run higher. Now, whether they need that or they needed somebody to build to the ground up or whatever you feel, it just feels like, maybe that would have happened by now. But I'm intrigued. I'm interested to see where it goes. But I know that with Fickle and with Kleiman, if those guys are in the running, you might wait an extra week because they have a conference championship game to play. It's not for sure. Kansas State has to, I think like Baylor has to lose.
They just have to win.
They have to win, but if they lose, then they need Baylor to lose to Texas too or something like that.
They're in control of their own destiny.
It's pretty likely to happen anyways at this point. Although the way that this season's gone, how about Kleiman gets to the top of our leading board and then loses the life hold right before the end?
Kick him out.
That seems to be how it's been going. All right, that'll wrap it up for the Ticket Water Cooler Happy Hour coming up next year on Thanksgiving Eve.
Imagine your next staff meeting.